Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to Worth Guitars. It's good to talk to everybody again. Just got back from Florida, seeing some family down there and getting a look at some of the devastation from those hurricanes. Man, what a mess. We were in the Sarasota area and whew, man, they got slammed pretty hard. It's pretty sad to see. You know, they started getting it cleaned up, of course, immediately, and they're huge trucks with trailers just hauling stuff out of there all day, every day. But man, my heart goes out to those people. It was pretty rough. But anyway, today we're back. We're back in the shop, and we're back on this acoustic guitar because I have some time to work on it. And when I have time, I need to do it. So it's time to get the binding on this guitar. Now this binding has been made for a while, and it's been sitting around, and it's gotten a little relaxed. But in these areas here, like this large bout and this one here, these are pretty gentle curves. And I really don't see any problem with just taping it down. I think it'll stick just fine. But here in the waist, that's always a tough spot. Because even though it's pre-bent, and if I push on it hard, I can hold it in there in the right place and it isn't an issue to get good contact without a gap in there. But tape isn't really going to hold that well. So what I'm going to do is make a couple of little blocks that has this exact curvature in it to push in here and here. And my thoughts are to get both of these pieces cut so that I can do both of these here at the same time. Both pieces around. Now, I don't know if I can do that. I may stick to just trying to do one. I don't want to get carried away here. Right? But I am going to make a block for each side. And that way, when I clamp it, I'm getting good contact and I'm not pushing against the guitar itself. I don't want to, you know, even though I would use some padding of some kind, even though I can use these kind of clamps that have some rubber jaws and so on, I still don't want to clamp to the wood, you know, with an odd shape. You need to have something that's really the shape that it is. A clamping caul that fits that space so it doesn't put any weird little dents in your guitar, in your surfaces that you then have to try and sand out. So if you take the time ahead of time to try to make some good cauls and things like that and to put pads behind your clamps, you know, you don't have to do a lot of weird sanding because there's enough sanding in the guitar industry as it is. We don't need to add more to it, right? Okay, so that's where we're going to get started. I'm going to get a couple of chunks of wood. First thing I need to do, because this is the clamp that I'm going to use, because these work great. You know, you don't have to hoss down on it too much just to hold it in place while the glue sets up, is see what kind of room I have here across here for a block. And I think if I stick to a block that's no bigger than, say, 1.25 inches in width, we shouldn't have any problem. I got plenty of room to get the clamp on, clamp it down. And that will also help in assuring that when I clamp this and bend the rest of this around, that I get an accurate mark here where it needs to be cut at the center line, at the top and the bottom of the guitar. Because if it's not clamped all the way in and you make this mark, when you do clamp this in, this is going to move. That cut's going to open up. So we don't want that to happen. So there's a couple different reasons to do this. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to get set up to do that, and we'll get going on it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for the thumbs up. Don't hesitate to drop a comment in there in the comment bin if you have any questions or comments about what we're doing, or if you have any suggestions how to do it better. I'm always open to hearing that as well. That's for sure, because I could always do better, right? I could always learn more. Okay, so let me go get set up. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, I got a couple of pieces of wood cut here to make these blocks out of. I have some hard rubber also that I thought about using, but I think I'll just stick with the wood. Let's see, it'll be fine. So what I want to do now is just trace this shape right here, and then I can go to the bandsaw and cut that out, and we can get a good clamping caul put together here. And we can start the process of gluing binding on this acoustic, which I've been waiting to do for a long time. But you have to do it when you can. I have, you know, like I've said before, I got people waiting on builds. So we've got to work on those guitars first. Let's see, I need a pencil. And I'm going to go right in this area right here. So let's just, what I'm going to do is put an 1.25 inch mark on here. Let me get you closer so you can see. Okay, so I'm making a caul to fit in this area here in the waist, and I don't want it to be any bigger than 1.25 inches. So I'm just going to put an 1.25 inch mark on here like that. And that's as big as I want this to be. So I'm going to set that guitar right on top of that, up to that line there. And then just like that. Right about there, I think. Then I'm going to take this pencil that's flat on one side, like this. And I'm just going to hold it right up here like this and trace that shape right onto the guitar, just like that. Right? There you go. So that's the shape we're cutting out. Just like that. We're going to cut that out. Okay? So this is what would be the right side. I'm going to do the same thing over here and then cut both of those out. Inch and a quarter. Mark that out across there like that. Get that up there like that. Doing the same thing again on this side. You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing. Okay, so now I have 2 blocks with that marking on there. See if I can get the lighting better for you. 2 blocks with that marking. And we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut that out. And then we'll go over to the sander over here and sand them to shape. Hold tight and I'll get you over there to the sander where you can see it. I'll just go cut these out real quick on the bandsaw. Hold on. Okay, so I just want to sand right down to that mark. Try to make these as accurate as possible. I'm going to round over that little sharp edge so that doesn't dig in, like that. So we have a nice clean block like this. Right down to that line, round it over those little corners. Okay? Same for this one. Corner over. Make sure we're down to the line. Just like that. 2 little blocks. So let's see how these work. Put this here, move that over a little bit. Move some of this stuff out of the way. Break the corners on all of this real well. Nice clean little blocks. And that little block is supposed to fit right there. Perfectly in this spot. And I think that's going to work great. This one actually fits better over here than it does over there. Okay, so we got them backwards. This one is right, this one is left. Yes, the guitars are slightly different from one side to the other. Just the way they bend. One won't bend quite, just, you know, just a little off from the other side, but you can't tell to see it. You can't see it, in other words, but it is a slight difference. So this one fits right in there just like that, as you can see. Now that's going to hold this. Oh, I know what it was. I had it sitting like this when I first started. So I actually did have the right one in the right place. Aha! So I tricked myself. It's important to pay attention to what you're doing. This was facing that way. This is left. This is right. That's correct. That fits much better that way. Oh yeah, it looks good. Okay, so now what I can do is take this piece, get it where I think it should be, which is right there. That's where it tends to want to bend in exactly. And I'm just going to put a little piece of tape on it to hold it there for a minute, like that. Then I'm going to take a piece of tape just to hold this in place while I get a clamp on it. Same with this one. So I'm not having to wrestle around with it while I'm trying to clamp it. I think that's going to work very nicely, right about there. Now we can test it before we get any glue on anything with these handy dandy Irwin clamps. Get centered here. Get everybody in the place where they're happy. Yes, it looks like that's going to work well. This one is just slightly off. Let's see what the problem is. We need to mark this where it'll lay in the correct place. That's very important. I think that I need to move it up like that in there. So it matters where it is because the radius changes. That's a little tricky right there, buddy. Tell you what. Let's see if we can figure that out. Just like that. Lay that down that way. There we go. See, I'm trying to get that to clamp real tight right there. That is important. And I think that's got it. I believe that is it. All right, that's a nice tight joint right there. Right inside there. Now the rest of this can easily just tape it down and we should be fine. So I want to mark this across here now, where it registers back to where it came from. That's important. So we get it back in the exact same spot. So I'm going to put a line here and a line here. So that way when we put this back on there, once it's got glue on it, we can get it right back in the exact spot it needs to go to. Right? Now I'm going to temporarily clamp this down all around so that I can get a mark on the top and the bottom cut. And we'll get those pieces cut. We'll get this piece cut and we'll get it clamped in there and see how it does. So let's put a little tape on here. Now we need to make a mark in the center of that area right there. Right there, in that center. So let me move this around, get it on the clamp, so I can see what I'm doing a little better. Hold tight. And I can see where I still need to shave just a little off the edge here of this. It's protruding that way a little, and it may have moved some since I put it on the first time. This looks pretty good here. Just need to clean that up a little right there and right there. But I can mark this while I have it here with my center mark, with my center ruler. I have exactly a ½ an inch here. That's my 0. Right there. All right, that's my center line for that piece. That's where I cut that end. Now let's do the same thing, get the other end marked. Swing this around here. So we can see it. And we're going to mark this one right here. This falls underneath the neck. This is where you got a little bit of play. Your neck sits right here. This pocket is right here. On this side of the guitar, you don't. Over here, you got a little bit of play because it's going to get covered up anyway. Right here, you want to try to be as accurate as possible, but it still can be slightly off, but you don't want it to be off. I'm going to try to get it right. We'll put a couple pieces of tape here. That. Hold that down, and I can hold it here. This is our center line here, right there, and that's where we'll cut that end. So let's get those cut and we'll see if we can get this piece glued on today. Okay, so let's go ahead and see about getting this glued on. See how well it does with doing just one at a time. I think that's probably the smart thing to do. That way we can ensure that we get everything really tight. Because I'm not in that big of a hurry. I can come back and do this side exactly like I did this side. No problem. And I'm also going to take a minute just to take a little bit off over here on this block so that it comes in a little tighter in this opening here. I think that's important. All right. So now when I put that in there, it pushes in harder because I took a little bit off of this curve on both sides. Just a little. Just enough to push this in a little bit tighter right here in this corner. This curve, not a corner. And that gets that in really tight right there, and that's what we need. Okay, so let's get this ready to go. I'll cut those pieces, and we can get this piece of binding cut and glued on, and then maybe come back and do the other one here in, I don't know, an hour or so. Let that set up good before I release the clamp and try to do this one over here. I don't know if I feel good about trying to do both at the same time. I want to make sure I get these joints right, on the back especially. Like I said, on the top, this piece coming around, these two pieces meeting right here is not as crucial because obviously the fretboard goes over top of it. So there you can have a little bit of slack, so I could probably do both sides at a time. As long as I get this end really tight together. If it's a little off up here, I got some slack, it doesn't matter. Right? Back here though, I need to get it right. So I think I'm just going to do one at a time over here. I think that'd be the smart thing to do. Where's my little tool at? Here it is. Transfer this mark around to the other side of the binding, like that, so I can make that cut easier. Hello, saw's getting dull. That looks good. Let me hit that with a block sander real quick. Clean that joint up a little. That looks good. Do the same thing on this one. I'll transfer my line around to the other side so I can cut it. I'm going to use a different saw. This saw is very dull. Where's my other saw? Now, the good thing about this is I can line that mark right up with this edge on this bench hook, and when I put my saw there, I'm laying right on top of the mark. So I can push it back to where the mark is sitting back behind this edge just a bit, and I want to leave that mark. Just gently cut through there like that. Then I want to come back. Push this forward just a hair, come back and sand it like that. That cleans up that cut really well and gets me right to that mark. And it's square, because I know this is square right here, 90 degrees. All right, now we know we got that piece cut, and we can get that piece glued on. One thing I'm going to obviously need to do is, since this is made out of wood, it would stick very nicely to the binding and the guitar if it gets glue on it. We don't want that to happen, so I'm going to put some wax on this, and that'll keep it from sticking. Or what I could do, is put a piece of wax paper on it. That always works well. Piece of wax paper. I'll just do that. Tape a piece of wax paper on there, although tape doesn't stick to it very well because it is wax. It'll hold it long enough for us to get it clamped up. Like that. And then that way, we don't have to worry about that sticking to our guitar, which would not be good in any shape or form. All right, let's do some glue. First, we'll glue as we go around. This gets a little messy. Don't want it to, but it does. We'll make sure we got plenty of glue on there. And we'll just glue a little as we go. Let's get this started right here by holding that there like that. And we'll just hold that there. And that there. Then we can get this going. And we'll put a piece of tape across it to hold it in place while we get a clamp on it. Same with this one. It'll hold that in place for us, so we're not fumbling around with the clamp. Like that. That's exactly what we want to do right there. That looks like we're in the perfect place. That's pulling up real nice right there in that waist. These two clamping cauls, pushing those pieces down in where they need to go. And from what I can see here, it worked perfectly. Right down inside there. Let's see. Right there. See? Man, I wish I had better light. I need a camera guy. Anyway, right down in that waist area there, where that mark is with the pencil mark. There's no gap, which means that we have good contact between the binding and the side. And that's exactly what we want. The rest of this is pretty easy to do. We just clamp it down with the tape. We work our way around. That, and then I'm going to put a clamp across here to hold these two ends good and tight, because they're always the hardest ones, because that wood's trying to bend down and it doesn't want to. So let's put a little clamp across there real quick and grab one, and we'll just put a clamp here, snug it up, just a little pressure on it to make sure we get those two ends right there. That's all we need. Just like that. Need a bigger clamp, huh? That was the closest one. That does the trick. That pulls those two ends down nice and tight in that rabbet. Everything else looks good. I'm going to put one more piece right here. One more right there. It's looking good. A couple more pieces just for fun, because it doesn't hurt. Put a couple more on. That's all tight. There's one spot right here, maybe. Could use it. Don't think it really needs it, but maybe. One more right there, maybe. That. Okay, that's finally the binding on the acoustic guitar getting started. If I have time, I'm going to come back and do this other side. I'll speed it up so we can see that we got both sides done. The clamping cauls work great. I got a nice good contact inside there. I don't need to worry about that now. Trying to get a million pieces of tape on it or rubber bands or whatever. I'm going to try the rubber band method one day, but this seems to work pretty well, so I'm sticking to it for now. And we finally got it done. So thanks for sticking with me through the video. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to let me know about them, all right? Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that like and subscribe button. It all tended to kind of jam together there for a second. I'm going to get out of here. We'll see you guys out there somewhere. Be kind to each other out there, all right? Peace. Worth Guitars. Okay, pull.
There you go. Nice shot.
Coming up. Up.
I should have had that one.